So we are live now. I'm just waiting for the numbers to pop up. YouTube will let me know as people start joining the broadcast. Here it is, Saturday night. It is 20:08 my time. What time is it for you?
Same as East Coast time.
Oh, okay, all right. You're East Coast. Excellent. Eastern time. Excellent.
Not in Michigan.
Michigan. That's right. But you were somewhere else before, right? When I first met you.
I split time in Arizona for various ventures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now you're back in Michigan. That's great. What's the temperature there now? It's got to be cold, right?
Coldest day of the year so far, 3 degrees this morning, and now it's up to. But we're not that far from Detroit. We're in southern Michigan.
Right.
It's not like Wisconsin or Minnesota,
Right.
Frigid up there.
Yeah, I know. This morning for me it was 3 degrees too, so very similar. That's pretty chilly. Yeah, definitely. All right, well let's get our conversation going. To our audience, this is episode number 3 of On the Verge of Greatness, and I'm talking with Mr. Ken Peterson. And I met Ken Peterson at a men's event, a couple men's events, as a matter of fact. And I met you, and I guess it was your wife-to-be.
That's right.
Right? I guess that was in June? Was it in June?
That's correct. Yeah, we got married a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah. And I remember you were one of the VIPs, and we had a good conversation, and I was just really impressed with you. And that was a great weekend. That men's event was just a great weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And one of the things that I learned about you is that you do spend time working with men, helping men be the best versions of themselves. So I'll just turn it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself to my audience, and we'll just let kind of like the stream of consciousness conversation go.
Yeah, once I get going, it might be hard to slow me down, Mr. Bruno.
That's all right, Ken.
Yeah, so Ken Peterson. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm on my second marriage and now second kid, and just had one with my wife, whom you met in June, right before we got married. So super happy in our household here. I have a son now, so I have a daughter and a son, which is that we could get into all those reasons, right, to have children. But daughters are special in their own way, and not having a son, like it means a lot. But
yes.
So let's see. I'm back in my hometown. I grew up small town in Michigan, kind of the American story in some ways, right? Like my family's mostly like Polish and German immigrants going 1 or 2 generations back, and just more or less blue collar, kind of first generation to go to college. In some areas, my parents both did go and graduated, which was rare, but. Eventually I did well in high school. I was I definitely wasn't a nerd, but I was an academic. But I played the sports as well, and I, kind of got along with everybody, but no one super well. And then I went off to West Point and graduated from there in 2007, and did a stint in the Army, and did not agree with the wars. That's a whole nother topic. I could easily spend a half hour talking about all that, and I think time has only caught up to my decisions I made around that back in the day. But and then I went through got out of the military after the 5 years. You owe 5 years active duty and 3 years reserve duty, so 8 years total of service, and then you go from there out into the civilian world. I worked a corporate job for a while, and then eventually got into sales and some other things that I still do and I enjoy a lot more, and it pays better, and it really integrates better with who I am and my own personality. But in the midst of all that, right, like I was successful on the surface, right? Externally, I had a great life, right? I had a good looking wife. I had a great daughter. I was making pretty decent money. I was starting to pay off debts and starting to get ahead and all those things. But then I just realized, I had been struggling a lot with, depression, anxiety. I mean, these are buzzwords now, but ADD, and I'm not totally negative on psychology, right? Like I think you have that background, right, Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
And there are very good therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists out there. But I think my experience was that in the military and other places, therapy always turned into a gripe fest. And that only made me feel worse, right? It only lowered me. It was let's hear you complain. We'll say some nice things, and then we'll try to prescribe you a drug, And so having said that, right, come back around to it. Like I just spent a lot of time unhappy, and I think I always forget if it's Thoreau or Emerson, right? But they say most men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Quiet desperation.
And it's really sad because we don't have to.
Right.
But that was a lot of my experience, even though I had great moments of triumph, right? Like I traveled in Europe. I lived in Europe. I went to a war zone that, again, I didn't really agree with, but ended up there. And I saw a lot of things, and I ran some marathons, and I was an above average guy. And on the surface, you'd think like, wow, what an awesome life that guy's leading. But then anybody with any real spirit to them and maturity to them probably could have seen beyond that. And I think a lot of men are dealing with that. They look and they think like, yeah, I look in the mirror, and they don't even like themselves, but then they go out and put on this fake version, and they're like, yeah, everything's great. Go post this on Facebook about how my chicken salad is, it's just amazing. And it's just a bunch of, that's the culture that we've become. And so I was part of all that. And then what really changed for me is just a lot of rocky stuff in my first marriage that I won't go into, but I mean, I can go into a little bit, but just the typical stuff where it's just not working, and you don't know why. And you blame yourself, and you blame the other person, and you go back and forth in the blame game for years and years, and you try different things, and you're just like, wait a minute. Sometimes these things just don't work. But before I got to that point, I joined a group you're probably aware of, Fraternity of Excellence, with Zach Small. The co-founder was Craig James, and both those men I learned a lot from, and a lot of the men in the Fraternity of Excellence helped me tremendously.
Yes.
So that was a real process for me, because I got onto the old subreddits, TRP and Married Red Pill, and like all these places where you get a lot of great information, and you hear about some transformations of men. And I read No More Mr. Nice Guy. I think, must have been 6 or 7 years ago or something at this point. Mm-hmm. And I made a couple of changes, and things would get a little bit better. But then I would, you think you're making progress, and then you 2 steps forward, and you go 3 steps back sometimes. And you go, geez, what's happening to me? Like I thought I'd fix this stuff. And then I soon realized, especially when I got into Fraternity of Excellence, when you start working with other men, and like you see their standards, and you see, when other men hold you accountable, it's like, holy crap, this is a big change. It's not, I have this saying, I say, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then an act is worth 1,000 facts, right? Because I was the guy who would read a lot, but then not implement much of anything, because that implementation process is painful. And until you get to that pain point where you're like, man, I can't go on like this anymore. Yeah. I never wanted to, put a bullet in my head or anything crazy like that. But you get to those really low points where you're close, right? Where you're just like, man, what? Another day isn't gonna just do it for me anymore. I can't keep doing this. And that's when you reach out, and that's when you read that book, and that's when you hopefully find other groups of men or a therapist or somebody who actually connects with you and holds you accountable and challenges you. Because that's really what I think we're lacking with men. I know we're lacking with men is we're not challenged enough in meaningful ways. We might be challenged on video games or in kind of these dopamine driven things where if we win, right, it's like it's this Pyrrhic victory. We've won, but what do we actually win? We won something that leaves us feeling more empty. And a lot of men get lost there. So the Fraternity of Excellence, I eventually hired Tanner Guzzi as a style coach for my career, and he helped there a lot. And I'm not, I'm still not the most stylish guy, but he helped me a lot, with fit and just trying to integrate things with who I was becoming. And so Tanner helped me a lot with identity formation, probably in ways that he didn't fully realize, but maybe he did. It was more than style coaching, right? And a lot of guys, they hire Tanner and they do like a quick thing with him. They do a quick course and they learn, and it's great. And it's definitely the value's there, but the full Tanner experience is totally awesome. I'm a big fan of endorsing all the people who've helped me, right? So, and that, I think that it's illustrative of my journey, and hopefully other men can do similar things with their own journey, right? And find other men who can help them and be those kind of those place markers on their journey, on their path. And so who else? Eventually, after I decided to get divorced a couple of years ago, I hired Pat Steadman and I worked with him a lot, and he helped me uncover some of those deeper issues. I got back out dating and doing those things. And man, for the guys out there, like if you haven't dated in really ever, because I got married pretty young and I was at military school and I didn't do a lot of dating in high school, to go back out again, I mean, that's terrifying. That's just terrifying, right? But you got to feel that fear and do it anyway, which is a great book. You've probably heard Susan Jeffers, right?
Susan Jeffers, yeah.
Oh, amazing book, right? That one really helped me as well. But you have to do something with it. So that's where I think that men are really lacking, is they don't have other men who challenge them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Back at the men's event that happened over the summer, there was the VIP reception. And one thing about what I would call like a high value man, and I'm not talking about high net worth, because you have to be a high value man before you have high net worth. The greatness starts in you as a man before it starts showing up in your bank account, you know?
That's right.
But at the VIP reception, it was cocktails and food and stuff. Everybody there looked like a VIP. They were men that invested in themselves. And, you know, you were there with your wife to be, your fiance at that time. And you looked like a VIP.
Thanks.
You looked like somebody who was somebody. And you stood like somebody who was somebody. You acted, you responded. The way you were interacting with people was like you were somebody. And I can still picture you at that VIP reception, how you invested in yourself. I can still picture how you were talking with other men and how other men were talking with you. And it was just interesting being in a room of men who are on the verge of greatness, which is what this series is all about. So since then, I found out you work with men.
That's right.
What kind of man do you work with? And why does a guy interact with Ken Peterson?
I think most men, I mean, you have to find somebody who inspires you, right? Who can hold you a little bit accountable more. You know, they can't do everything for you, but they have to keep pulling you back in and say, hey, look, this doesn't get easier until you persist through it. So it's really finding someone who resonates with your style and where you're at, and maybe there's some similarities in your journey. Maybe your demographics are similar, right? Always from a small town like me, or sometimes, I don't know. There's something crazy in the universe, right? Where you just kind of people get pulled in at the right time for the right reasons, but also at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. So, I mean, typically the men I work with, the group I run is called Men of Integrity. I mean, to be very frank, it's very similar to a lot of other men's groups, right? But and sometimes like that almost held me back before I started the group over a year ago now. I was like, geez, you know, I don't want to just be a copycat guy. And I realized like, well, the model is all similar, but the journey is unique to every man. And there simply aren't enough leaders out there. So the men I work with tend to be a lot like me, right? 20s, 30s, 40s, married or looking to get married, you know, sometimes divorced. Like they're suffering. They don't know how to get through their divorce. They're still seeking validation through women. right? And or anything external really, and they're looking to get through that process, and they're looking for something to anchor to, and that's what I needed. And so at some point I realized like that's my mission, right? Is to help other men, other human beings, but particularly men, because I think women best help women and men best help men in their certain areas, right? And if you look at it from a broad standpoint, right? Society, like I have this saying in Men of Integrity, it's like every man a leader. We need more men who are leading, and not every man is going to, be the president or form their own group. But, you can form a Bible study. You can coach kids soccer. You can go count the ballots at the local election, at the local precinct, right, to make sure that there's good integrity in the counting. There's so many ways that we can do these things. So it's really just working one-on-one with men, and then again in these small groups where we'll have group calls. And in fact, you were one of the guests on our call. Thank you, Mr. Bruno, not too long ago, and having guests who have done a lot of this work and can inspire others. And really, it's being a networker. It's being somebody to anchor to. And if men need that, in which most men do nowadays, because we lack it in our daily lives, unfortunately, we lack it from our fathers or our uncles or our grandfathers or our brothers. So we have to go out there and consciously find it.
You had said something that kind of made me think there. There's a lot of guys in the audience right now that they heard you say something, seeking validation from women. Explain that to the audience.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I mean, that's most guys in most relationships with women. And it was certainly me for a large part of my first marriage, right? Where you're not sure what to do, right? You have to make a decision, and it's a hard one. And you look to a woman's emotional response to be the, if not the sole, then the primary way that you make your decision. It's your primary consideration, or it carries far more weight than it should. And I think a lot of men, we get into this kind of pendulum swing back and forth between like nice guy and this, angry jerk, or, well, I'm gonna toy with this girl and I'm gonna neg her, and I'm not gonna give her attention when she needs it, or we go too far the other way and we say, well, I'm gonna give her attention all the time and have no filter, and I'm not gonna be a high value man because I'm gonna be pawing at her all day, and trying to get her attention. And but the integrated view, right? The reason why I focused on integrity in the title and in my own life, in the title Men of Integrity, is in the group's name, is because the integrated view is a higher view, right? The masculine is primarily it's women are anchored, right? We actually rain our seed down into a woman, right? Like this is like biblical or whatever, right? But this is the way that we're supposed to see things. So the woman is like the earth, that she's Mother Earth, and the man is this transcendent, almost godly force. I'm not saying all men are gods, right? But we're supposed to channel that higher purpose and that spirit and be spiritual leaders. And we can't do that if we're validating through women, right? If we're seeking the emotional swings of a woman to guide us and direct us, because that's just it's not something to anchor to, right? Now that said, right, the other view, to take it too far, what's the term? The red pill Rambo view is, again, you don't listen to her ever. And it's like, well, wait a minute, listen and get to the bottom of the emotion. What is the emotion actually telling you, right? Actually show up and listen to a woman. And some of that is you have to ascertain her needs. You can't ask a question every time. Sometimes you got to be a little bit smart, use some life experience, and be okay with making mistakes, and be upfront about like, hey, I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm going to do what I can to help you, right? And be the leader in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. All right, so you're on your second marriage.
Correct.
Your last marriage.
That's true.
And
never say never, but that is 1,000% my intent.
Right. Now, here's a question I have for you. I'll start it out with a statement. When a man gets married for the second time, he does it for different reasons than he did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
What is different about being married a second time than the first time? How are you operating differently? What are your expectations? How is it different than your first marriage?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a big one. It's weighty. But I'll swing the bat here. The first time around, and again, this is, I believe, I couldn't pick a number, 95% of relationships, of long-term relationships, romantic relationships, marriages, they're in a state of codependence. So both partners, and this was certainly me, both partners in most relationships are seeking to fill a hole in themselves with another person. And you can't really, most people can't do that. They can fill that hole temporarily, right? They can make you feel better for a day. They can stroke your ego, oh, this girl likes me, so therefore I have self-worth. But the integrated view, right? The interdependence is I like to think where I'm at now, humbly, I think I'm there where I look for a woman who could meet me at my level in her own feminine way, right? She could mirror me and step up and be present and be a woman, right? And which is I believe a surrendered woman, right? Who's, and men have to be surrendered too, but that that she wants that mother and wife role, and she wants me to step up and lead. And if she sees I can't do it, she's able to do it. She's an adult, but she chooses to say, you know what, I want my husband to do these things for me. My wife is a very capable woman. She's a go-getter. She's very intelligent and capable, and she's assertive in her own way. So it's about that, right? Instead of passive aggressive, it's assertive, right? Instead of trying to fill a hole in you, I like to say that relationships are supposed to reinforce your spirit. And so I like to look at it that way. I'm whole. I could be on my own. My wife could do the same. Sure, she might have, more trouble like earning money or things like that, but she is emotionally a whole person, psychologically a whole person. And when we come together, we create synergy. Instead of dragging each other down or just filling a hole, we actually add together and we add up to more than the sum of our parts.
Yeah.
And I think that's what most people are missing. And that's one of the things that drives me to help other men is like, I want men to have this. It's so awesome when you find a woman on your terms and she comes to you on her terms, and there's no force about it, right? There's no manipulation. Everything is up front, and we're just open and honest. And it's like, this just works. And it feels really good. Not nice guy, weak feel, but it's just the deep sense of satisfaction. You feel that polarity on a daily basis, and that's an amazing thing. That's my second marriage, and I haven't been married that long, but I know the difference working with Pat Steadman on what creating a fantasy is, and that's not where I'm at. So it's
right.
The latter, or the former in this case.
You didn't rescue her, in other words.
Correct. I will say this, Mr. Bruno. Now we do find that we improve each other, but we're not. Yes, correct. We're not pulling ourselves out of a deep dark pit each other, right? We're saying, you know what, I'm better than you in this way, and you're better than me in this way. I could learn from you, and let me help you. And if I see you struggling, I can help you. And I'd like to think that I'm the one stepping up, leading, and I think I am in more ways than she is. But never discount that, like, the power behind the throne, right? Of that woman who supports you and is there and subtly redirects you and all those things with the best of intent and generally with the best of results too.
Yeah, I like the idea. Like I kind of cringe when I hear the phrase "strong, independent woman," and I kind of took that and I mixed those words around a little bit, and I say a strong, interdependent woman is what we should be looking for in a woman who is has the ability and the desire to want to grow and build something. And that's one of the things that I've been teaching men for years is you vet a woman on her propensity and ability to want to build something as opposed to just enjoy the ride.
And you told me that when we met over the summer, and I had my then fiance with me, and I had already realized that subconsciously, but you put words to what I had already, like, oh, she's a builder, I'm a builder. We're looking to build a legacy together. We will build a legacy together, and we're already off to a great start. And that's the difference, right? And I don't know, controversial or not, I don't care. Right? I don't know if I don't think all men are marriage material, even if they work on themselves. And I don't think all women are marriage material, even if they work on themselves. We can all get to a better place. That's not damning anybody to a miserable life or anything. But that marriage is a special institution. It's a special commitment. And I don't know, that's a trad view or whatever, but I just like to, you kind of go back to roots and you realize like the things that were lacking that have made society, a lot of people would say degenerate or falling apart or lack integrity. We have to go back to principles and these foundational ideas and foundational living, which is, living by your principles and finding other people and honoring things like marriage and, loyalty and integrity itself, right? Which is the whole conversation about what that even means, in today's world.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: where in your work with men, where have you noticed that men go wrong? Where do they really mess up in life?
I think a couple of things, right? An act is worth 1,000 facts, right? We read. I know a lot of guys are super brainy and they read a lot of books, right? They're high IQ, they're capable, they did well in school, at least academically, and or they play a lot of video games. They're super brainy, and then they get stuck in their own head, and they're missing. What they're missing is you have to act, but acts take courage. They don't take intellect. Courage is a level of energy or spirit inside of you. And if you're not inspired, or if you don't go out and do hard things and inspire yourself, you're going to have a much harder time, finding that courage. So that's the one pitfall that I think was the biggest. And that's just from my own personal experience. And what I also see with men is they're like, well, I read the thing. It's like, but what did you do differently? And then they do a small thing differently, but they don't have any systems in place. A system is like every Friday, like in my group, we've taken something. I think some of the YouTubers and Twitter guys were doing. They call it Physique Friday, right? We post every Friday what we look like with our shirts off, and now that's in our semi-private area that we do that. But
that's no joke.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if you're a little overweight and you're not super satisfied with how you look. That's the ownership, though. Men need ownership, right? And that's accountability. And also, a lot of men hold shame about they were teased when they were younger because they were overweight, or they were not very athletic, or their dad just never had them out, chopping wood with their shirt off to be confident doing that. And so they hold a lot of shame around it. So we have to own that shame and walk through it. So that's a big thing, right? Is having the systems to come through on the action, because we often, it's kind of like stock trading. I don't know. Have you ever done any trading, Mr. Bruno?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot, but I have some good trader friends. In fact, we have some in Men of Integrity that, that's some of the guys share with each other as their trading tips and strategies and all that. But you look at it, it's like, you don't have to make wins on every trade. You just have to stop from losing too much. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of times as men, we think we gotta jump forward with this, crazy progress every day. And even 1% better every day sounds great, but that's just unsustainable, even though it sounds small. But if you can grow 1% and then on your bad day, you just hold firm with what you've got, then that's success too. If you start with $1,000 and you make 100 more, now you have 1,100, and then the next day you lose 200, you're back in the hole and you're worse than you started. So just maintain that 1,100 or at least maintain $1,001 so you move forward still. Let's see, other pitfalls working with men that I see a lot is, I think it's the implementation, and it's it's not being open enough. Every man, again, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Every man thinks that they're unique and their problem, and it is unique, right? Like I don't want to take away from any man's story. Mine's special, yours special, right? All the special snowflake talk, whatever, but everyone is special. Everyone has a unique history, and they're going to have to unpack their own past and integrate it and own it. But you can't do that without openness, right? You can't do that without some vulnerability. Vulnerability grows trust. And if you can't do that with yourself or with other small groups of men, you can't go out into society and be trusting and confident that you're going to succeed.
I was thinking about the movie Three Kings with George Clooney and I think Ice Cube. And I'll never forget there was a scene where somebody had to do something that required courage. And one of the characters said, I don't think I have the courage to do that. You know, that scares the shit out of me. And I believe it was the George Clooney character said, no, that's not how it works. He says, you do the stuff that scares the shit out of you, then you get the courage.
I think that's true, right? Men have to live on the edge, right? And that edge doesn't mean you jump off the cliff, right? But that you go look over the cliff and okay, you know, and you gotta do something hard to get there. And that's actually a great point, right? Is like a lot of men, they don't challenge. It's great to start challenging yourself physically first, because we live in such a material or physical realm, and we're largely assessed by how we look, for better and for worse, right? I think that's actually a good thing to look at a man and say, geez, like he's really out of shape. I mean, that suggests he's undisciplined. That suggests he's unreliable. That doesn't mean, again, his soul is wicked and ruined, but it does suggest that he's got some work to do.
Right.
So yeah, you have to go out there and do something hard and starting hard physically, right? Just pumping those weights or running an extra mile or whatever it is. Go set a hard physical challenge and do it. And you start to believe. You start to believe that you can do it. And that belief is really that spirit building, right? To that level of courage where you can say, you know what, this is hard. I have fear, but I'm overcoming the fear. Push through, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how you said run the extra mile. When I think about weightlifting, it's not always about putting more weight on the bar. It might be about just squeezing out one more rep.
That's true. In fact, more weight, you know, I mean, especially as I'm only in my mid-30s, but it's different working out in my mid-30s than my mid-20s. It'll probably be very different in my mid-40s, right? You're there to build in the most efficient way possible, so you don't hurt yourself, because getting hurt in your 30s, it takes 3 times longer to heal than in my 20s, and that's just the reality of getting a little bit older.
That is true. I mean, it's the same thing with partying and such. I mean, there was a day when a man can party late into the night, early into the morning, get 2 hours of sleep, and still operate normal. Now, after a certain age, you just know you can't do that. And I don't know, I guess that's different for every man.
Sure.
I know for myself, when it comes to strength, I was probably my physically strongest at about 50 years old.
Wow.
Between 45 and 50, I was still just a brute when it came to free weights.
Yeah.
After that, it's not that I felt my strength slipping. I was still pretty strong, and I'm still pretty strong, but my recovery time is what I noticed was different after 50. Not so much that I was getting weaker,
sure,
but that my recovery time took longer, just from everything. I mean, just, in the past, you have an injury, you just wrap up that joint, you know what I mean, and ice it, and and you're back in the gym in a couple days or a week or whatever. Now, you mess up a shoulder, goof around with a knee, and you're out of the gym for a month. So I find now it's not about how much weight that I can push. It's about form.
Yeah.
It's about nice, clean reps. I love doing clean reps, just with nice form, and I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've gotten older, and you'll find this out too, our strength is really about functional strength. You want to clean behind the refrigerator? It takes a little strength to move that thing out. You want to move a dresser up a flight of stairs? It takes strength to do that. So it's not so much about throwing iron around at the gym. It's like, can you split a cord of firewood?
Sure.
Can you move a dresser up a flight of stairs?
Those are all things that you carry yourself with confidence when you know you're more capable than a lot of others. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Where do men win the most? I asked you, where do men really mess up the most, but where do they win the most?
I see the most success is, again, when men are open, when they're vulnerable. Brene Brown, right? The Power of Vulnerability. That's a great book or talk that she has. And she talks about, you got to walk through your shame, right? I use this. I always tell guys, I'm like, hey, look, so what? You kicked a puppy when you were 6 and you felt terrible for the last, 30 years about it. Like, just tell everybody, and especially in men of integrity, right? And a lot of men's groups, like we're there to accept each other, come as you are. And, there aren't too many things that you can say where people are going to say, wow, we don't want you here, right? Like, there's almost nothing. You kicked a puppy when you're 6. We don't care, man. Like, you were 6 years old. It's okay, right? Are you still kicking puppies and beating dogs? And, if you're abusing animals, then that's a problem. You got to, right? You get the point, though. It's like we don't forgive ourselves for our past things, and we hold on to this shame because we've not shared it. So being open and trusting, but then just being persistent. I mean, if you're going all the way in, if you're investing thousands of dollars in coaches, which I think men really need to, if they can afford it at all, you've got to invest in yourself. You just have to. I probably spent $40,000 to $50,000 over the last 6 years on personal coaching and various, men's groups and conferences, and just creating those landmark experiences where I'm like, I learned this at this conference, and I'm not unlearning that. I'm going to implement that into my life, and I'm going to report back on it to other men. So, I mean, that's what worked for me, and that's what I'm also seeing for other men. Go do these hard things. What's the hardest thing? That's the question for the men watching right now. Like, what's the hardest thing you're going to do in 2022? Do you know what that is? You might not know, but you can plan something that's hard to do. It can be a marathon. It can be you want to get your purple belt in jiu-jitsu. You don't always know when that's going to come, but you can work hard for those type of things. And so really the success is in the persistence. And like you talked about, if we can follow that weightlifting analogy here, like putting in the reps, right? The reps mean I get up and I read for 20 minutes consistently every day for months on end. And I read with an intent to learn and implement things, right? I do daily challenges. I talk to other men and I admit when I'm wrong. What's another? I like it. I like this term. I don't think I'm original to it, but I'll claim it if nobody else does. I call it masculine redirection. Because a lot of men, you say, hey, man, like you're off track, and they get butthurt, right? They're like, oh, man, ooh, yeah. And then, they withdraw and you never hear from them again. But masculine redirection is not, hey, I'm Ken and I'm here to tear you down. It's, hey, I'm Ken and I see you're not reaching your own potential. We have a standard here and you're not meeting it. Okay. And then you get called out on it, maybe privately, maybe publicly. But that's good accountability if it's done from the right intent, from the right spirit, right? And the spirit is, I'm here to help you improve and pull you back into alignment with the standard that you've agreed to adhere to. And that's a big thing. And most men don't have that. I think we used to get that from fathers and grandfathers. Hey, son, that's not the way to do it. You need to get your head back on straight and get back out there. You didn't do it right, and then pulling into a group identity. A lot of men, right? Like you gotta be part of the group. We're tribally wired. It's become a cliche, right? Tribe and all this stuff. But you have to wear a logo. You have to have something on your T-shirt or or a tattoo or a piece of jewelry or or a challenge coin like they do in the military for your unit. You have to feel a sense of belonging and say, my group is depending on me. And fundamentally, it's true, right? In Men of Integrity and Fraternity of Excellence and all these groups, like we live and die, or we degenerate or we improve based on the men around us and our own effort.
What would you say to the man, and I'm sure there's somebody watching this right now who's not commented and they're just sitting back and they might be ashamed of things that they've done, they really messed up in their life. What would you say to a man who is really, really messed up? Really just did some really, and I'm not talking about kicking the dog when you're 6. Yeah. I'm talking about when you're 25, when you're 30 years old. What would you tell a man who has utterly failed as an adult and as a man? How would you use masculine redirection with that man?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, I think it's a spiritual struggle, like that we're all in, right? And so it has to be, maybe it sounds cheesy, but I don't care. It's a message of love, right? It's okay. I accept you. God put us all on this earth, and we're all in this together. We still all have to take responsibility for our own actions, but we're all, it has to be a message. I think you taught me this in one of your speeches, right? Like, I love you and I believe in you. And that is really, but you can't just say it, fake it till you make it, but you have to actually mean it and actually have some spirit inside of you when you say this to men. And I think I do, I hope I do, is convey that message. It's fundamentally, it's okay. There is a God or a creator, and there is love, and there is spirit, and there is redemption. And when we accept things for what they are, right? Because a lot of times as men, we resist what is. My life is messed up. Accept it, but stop beating yourself up over it, right? Live in the present with it, and hold it and say, okay, yeah, I've done a lot of drugs and it screwed up my brain, and it's going to take me a while to fix it. Or I've hurt a lot of people in my life and I feel shame for it or guilt. But it all comes back to that ownership. And I think telling other people, and you'll find that at least in Men of Integrity, that it's okay. We accept you, right? We're not going to accept you sitting there and griping about it, but we want to hear these things. We want you to own it, and we want you to, and then come up with a plan that and use the accountability systems we have to be able to come back and keep trying and persisting. And there's a Marcus Aurelius quote, I guess is the way to end that answer, is right. Like, no man can go back in time and create a new beginning, but he can start from now and create a new ending. And that was my experience of like, man, I messed up this marriage, and it's like, but my life is way better than when I was married before, right? Because I was able to do that, and that's ultimately, I hope my message is aspirational. It's if I can do it, I'm unique in my own ways, but I mean, I'm not a giant guy, I'm 5'6". I'm 170 pounds on a heavy day, and I'm in pretty good shape. But it's not about how big the man is. It's not about how much money's in your bank account or whatever. I'm doing okay, but I'm not fabulously wealthy. I come from pretty basic basic small town people. And it really is about that persistence and that spirit and the confidence that you bring. And we can all do it, right? We can all be reborn, and that's just it's such a beautiful thing about life, and especially about manhood. You can be a man at any age, even if you live in a state of arrested development, like it seems like most men are. Most boys don't graduate into men.
It's interesting that you mentioned your height.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that. And the thing is this, the times that I've seen you out in public, it never occurred to me, never crossed my mind that guy's 5'6", because you act like you're 6'2". You do. You act like a tall man. And I'm not elevating tall men, because I know plenty of tall men who are weak inside, who are broken.
Sure.
But it would never occur to me for 1 second, the height thing. Let me ask you this. Has height been an issue at all for you? Like, for instance, when I see you, I mean, you're jacked. You know, you look like you throw some heavy weight around. You look strong. You look like you embody the principle of clothes make the man, but muscles make the clothes. We like to say that.
Yeah.
What word, like, everyone who's watching this is not like 5'11" and taller.
Sure.
I can guarantee that. What would you say to the man who would say, I'm only 5'5", I'm only 5'4"? Like, I was looking at the height of certain, like, rock stars, and there's a band called Styx that I really like. And the lead singer and guitarist for the band, he's just a little guy. I'm talking, he's small. He's like 5'4" or 5'5" or something like that. Just and he's a skinny little guy. He's not even. But on stage when he's performing, it just doesn't. Competence just basically makes every man tall, and that's the first thing that I noticed in you was competence, confidence, the way you carry yourself just makes you have authority, makes you you're the kind of guy in a room full of men, other men look at you. Other men look at you and they glance at you. I can tell. They glance at you and they see how you hold yourself. They saw you with your fiance. They saw how you interacted with other men, and you were living it. You were fleshing it out. And I thought that was pretty darn cool. I thought that was really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, height really is, it's important, you know, like I eventually, I didn't cut it in middle school basketball, you know, and
yeah,
you know, there's the Muggsy Bogues story, but I mean, certain things like you're just genetically limited by, right? I'm not going to be taller than I am. But yeah, it really comes down to confidence and a lot of men, right? Like you definitely need to build strength. I mean, be stronger, right? Be if you're 5'4", go be strong, but you don't even have to overcompensate. Just be able to carry your weight and be a physical presence when people say, oh, that guy, I see he's got some veins. I see he's got some discipline. He's, you know, that suggests that he could be dangerous, right? I mean, I don't know. Those are things that are useful with confidence, but then a lot of these things, and I think there's the deeper side, right? Is most men don't work on the shame. They don't work on the guilt. They don't work on the things in their past. And, you know, that's why you talk about, I see a guy who's 6'4" and he's, you know, 220 pounds and he's in great shape, but there's a hole in his soul still, right? Because he's too scared to, or he's never been taught, right? It's not even, sometimes it's just, we don't even know what to look for. Our culture's not good at accepting these things and helping us find these things. And so you could be 6'4" and not confident. And it's also, again, it's about living on the edge and trying new things and leaning into your strengths and then rounding out your weaknesses. I'm not a great musician, but I have no problem like singing karaoke and sounding not so good in public, right? Because I'm out there to have fun, right? And I don't take myself too seriously. Yeah.
Here's a question. This is from Amrit. He is a regular audience member here on my channel. He says, define failure as a man. What does that mean?
Ooh, failure. I think it's only failure if you give up, really. Right. It's just like, I hate to use money analogy again. Maybe I don't. They're just so pertinent, right? It's like, oh man, I lost $1 million on Bitcoin or something. It's like, did you sell it? You haven't lost it yet. it can still go back up. And that's not to say just, double down on losing. There's strategies to actually hold on to money. That's not what I'm advocating. But same thing on the other side, like, oh, I'm up $100,000 on my house. Like, well, it's not a gain until you sell the house. It's,
right.
until you actually make that change. So that's the key word there. And if you keep making changes, eventually you're going to find success. And failure is giving up and checking out. And it's tough out there, right? There's not a lot of good things to anchor to. There really isn't. So I think there's more than we realize, though, right? It's just when we're in a low place, everything that we see around us, we attract low things. So then we have to, there's something different about maybe me, or maybe the Fraternity of Excellence, or Tanner Guzzi, or Mr. Bruno here, and they're offering to help you one-on-one, and you have a way to get it done. You gotta step up and do it. You gotta take action. You've got to find the thing. It could be a church. It could be a pastor, right? I know churches are generally in a pretty dismal state of masculinity, but there are exceptions out there. Go find those people who have what you want, and be humble and ask them, like, can you help me?
Here's a question. What do you guys think is the best way to exercise fortitude? There's a good question for you. Fortitude. And that's a word that we don't hear much anymore. The word fortitude is kind of an old-fashioned word. It basically just means guts.
I was thinking intestinal fortitude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that men need to do, and I don't think I'm done with this, but I've peeled back a lot of layers of it, is you have to overcome your fear of death, right? That active fear of, oh my God, I'm going to be left alone and I'm going to die. And then when you operate from a place of like, you know what, I might be the smallest guy in the room, but I'll probably be the boldest guy in a lot of rooms, not every room, but in a lot of rooms, I'll be the guy not wearing the mask when I think it's stupid and it has no place. I'll be the guy who just speaks up and say that's not right. There's just little things like that where you just, it's really built in the daily things.
Here's a young lady who is in my audience on a regular basis. She says, I am grateful for listening to this young man. Not only is he able to put perspectives out there for men to consider, he is also giving me the perspective of what to look for in a man. I find that kind of interesting, that women, they might not know how to define masculinity and manhood, but they sure know it when they see it, don't they?
Yeah, and this is really a calling for men to be good fathers, right? To be very good fathers, and to have an active role in their daughters and and nieces and female cousins and all that. And again, a lot of people think, wow, that sounds controlling. No. It's not about telling somebody what to do. It's about knowing that they have your love and that they have your support, and that men, not all men, but men in general, tend to be better at what's the word, at discerning between the quality of other men as well, right? If somebody who's removed from the emotional side of it can see, like, he's not a good fit for you, right? I mean, I think men used to regularly, I don't know how many generations ago now, they used to run off like the loser guys who would come hang out by your younger sister or your older sister. You'd be like, you're not a fit. No, you're not welcome in this family. No matter how much she likes you and she's kissy with you right now, it's like, no, you're not a fit for this family. You're from, and I don't mean just in a classist kind of way, right? But like, you're from the wrong side of town, or you have the wrong values, or you'd
have to get through her brothers first.
That's exactly the point. But we hardly have family anymore. And
then her father.
Yeah. You'd have to pass muster, and they would challenge you with masculine things of like, okay, can you provide for a woman? Are you actually going to go out there? Do you have staying power? Do you have drive? Are you driven to go? Do you have any purpose in your life? Because women find purpose in a lot of things, but most of them seek it in building a family and being at the center of that family as the cook and the mother and the kind of the manager of the house and the focused on the interpersonal side of making sure everyone gets along and trying to grease the wheels and get everybody to function as one cohesive unit. And that's such a beautiful thing to see in action. But men have to do that counterpart, which is step up and lead and earn money and provide and take a lot of that weight off of women. So I don't think I'm doing it perfectly, but I know I'm, drastically improved over, 5 or 10 years ago. And it took a very conscious effort to do that with a help from a lot of men who I'm very grateful to.
Yeah.
And again, you were one of them. I remember we had a talk too about, it was a semi-private session at one of the conferences, talking about how, like what to do post-divorce. Don't go down this destructive path. And that already reinforced what I was doing, right? That's definitely what I was doing, but you made it so much easier and clearer. Like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy for thinking like, you know what? I don't need to go out there and sleep with every woman who bats an eye at me now that I'm single, right? Yeah. I don't need to chase women. All right. I need to chase excellence. I need to go back to what works for me. And, lo and behold, I met my wife kind of in one of those, like, oh, wow, like locked eyes at the gym. And I was like, who's this girl? But I really wasn't interested, nothing to do with her. I was just in that place of focused on myself and checked out from dating and that whole thing. And then eventually it turned into something because she saw that I was on a mission. At least that's what I think it was.
What you're saying is, like, she didn't like ask you about your bank account first, like a lot of guys say. A lot of guys will say, like, oh, they only care about a fat wallet. Like you can't lead with the fat wallet. I mean, that eventually does show up somewhere down the line. Yeah. But what do you think? I mean, other than obviously looking at a guy who's taking care of himself, what did your wife, now this is a humbling question, what did your wife see in you? Because this is what I say, that women don't care how much we bench press.
Yeah.
They don't care how much we go to the gym. They just care that we go to the gym, that we're taking care of ourselves. So, all right, so you meet your now wife, at the gym. What did she see in you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, this was in the wake of the whole insurrection day or whatever retardedness that they're using for this term. I had a Trump hat on because I didn't believe that the proceedings with all this election stuff was happening in an orderly, integrated, manner. So I said, hey, whether I love the guy or not, I'm going to put that hat on and I'm going to wear it in public. And that's just part of me being bold and being different. And she saw that confidence, said, hey, I'm going to step up. And I'm not here to offend anybody, right? I'm not looking to make anybody have a bad day with my hat, but I'm looking, I simply don't care, right? I'm going to do what I think is right, which is support the side of the cause that I think is more in truth than the other. And I could be wrong in that. There's humility there, but yeah. So fundamentally, just confidence and sticking up for what I believe in, and very few people do that now, right? Everyone looks at all this mask stuff and all that, like, well, just do it because it's nice. And there's a time, right? If you're with some little old lady and she asks you to put a mask on, like, okay, make a decision, right? And you might, out of just sheer empathy for that woman, do it. But by and large, right, like, just don't give in to things that are silly and stupid and childish and immature. That's not what, we just don't give in to things that, and you don't have to live in a state of resistance. You don't have to scream at it. You just quietly do your own thing and go your own way and build your own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she saw confidence and again, that I had social standing in my gym. I've been going there for years and people knew who I was. And I think generally liked me and respected me. And I was personable and, just being comfortable having a conversation, which is, a lot of these guys are on their video games and they're on, here we are, but they're on YouTube all day. And then it's like, can you look people in the eyes? Can you have a conversation? And we locked eyes, my wife and I made a comment. I said, you have really good eye contact. Where did you learn that? And she was,
that is a great line. I like that.
Yeah. But again, it's a line, but it's not right. I didn't pull it from anywhere. It's just
Right,
in that
right.
moment, as a man, I decided like, I'm going to comment. I comment on things because I observe the world and I'm not scared to say what I see and engage in conversation. And that's kind of where it went from there. So there was a spark, there was a thing, sure, up front, but I just wasn't really paying attention to it for a good while afterwards. You know, it took weeks or whatever to come around on these things, but you know, attractive woman and a confident man. And oh, wow, a confident man's an attractive man. Right. So, but back to the money, Mr. Bruno, you bring up a good point, right? I see guys and Tanner Guzzi goes crazy about this. You know, he's like, you know, what we wear doesn't matter. How we look doesn't matter. Right. Like guys say that all day long. And, you know, Tanner cringes and he's just like, oh, come on. Right. Or anybody who's focused on style and aesthetics. Like these things matter a lot, but you don't need to be driving a Bugatti. Right. In fact, that's going to probably attract the wrong women. But you also don't want to be in like a 96 Toyota Corolla. Right. Because most women, at least marriageable women, are looking for a man who has sensible, clean, you know, reliable transportation. And if it has a little more horsepower and it's a little bit fun and you drive it with some balls, I mean, that's fun too, right? And that shows that you have a fun side. But she's not looking for the guy who you know, mortgage his house to get a car with his last dollar. Men got to stop thinking that there's something wrong with a woman wanting a man who can provide. Isn't that your job, right? And that doesn't mean you're worth $10 million when you meet her, but you have the ability to earn money so that she has the option. Hopefully, sometimes men and women got to work, and I understand that in today's world. But ideally, we move more and more towards, you know, men provide and women work in the home, and they provide an invaluable role for society.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. I noticed the Family Alpha is on with us tonight here. And when I was talking about fortitude, he said balls. Yeah, guts, balls, fortitude. I mean, it's something that's noticeable, isn't it, in a man?
Sure. Ooh, I've got something from history. You may know, Mr. Bruno. I've been told, I've read in some, I think, reputable books, Michael Walsh's book, Last Stands. It was pretty good. I think it was released last year about, you know, why men, you know, die on the battlefield when all hope is lost. I think is the basic subtitle of it. And the word testify comes from the root word for testicles. The Romans, you know, the soldiers or the centurions, whatever you call them, they would actually grab by their testicles with their hand, and they would give an oath. And now I'm swearing on my masculinity that I'm going to do this, right? So having balls and being a man is largely that. And again, it's not your size. I know the Family Alpha. If that's Zach, love your brother. He's awesome. And he's a little bigger than me, but not by much, right? He's normally the shortest guy on the stage, and he carries himself like an 800-pound gorilla out there, right? And I don't mean that negatively, right? Like all the good parts of an 800-pound gorilla. He's confident, he's strong, and he has gravity to his presence and his voice. So that's really the difference, right? Like, and we need those things back again, right? It can sound crude, and maybe you don't do it at a cocktail party, but dude, grab your balls and swear you're going to do it.
That's right.
And then get it done, right? And again, nobody's perfect on that, but this is, to me, and men often ask me like, oh, your group's men of integrity, you know, what does integrity actually mean? And there's no perfect definition, but integrity leads to personal power.
Yes.
I think that's what men miss with a lot is like they intend to do nice things. They intend to have great relationships, but they rarely get the things done that they rarely follow through. They tell their woman they're gonna, you know, install a new vacuum charger onto the wall or some silly thing. And if it goes a day, it's no big deal. But if she keeps asking and you keep saying, sure, I'm going to do it, and 2-3 weeks go by, she's lost a lot of trust in you. And that's not her being a nag. She could be nagging at that point. But I would almost think, again, it's not a beautiful thing to see, but you almost caused that as a man because you told her something and you didn't come through. You could have just told her, hey, babe, it's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks. I'll get to it when we get to it. I've got 7 other things on my list, and you'll see me doing those things because, I mean, a woman in a marriage, I mean, she has every right to see that you're committed to the marriage and that you follow through and you get things done and you're contributing actively as the leader of the family or in various roles that you two have worked out together.
Who are your influences? Who are you influenced by?
Ooh. So one of the first guys that helped me, the Golden One on YouTube here, he's a guy in Sweden. I love his he's got a great aesthetic, right? He started out pretty young and narcissistic, but he's all about, you know, lifting weights and everything. He was the first guy who was like, hey, porn is really bad. Porn is just, it's not good. And I was never like big into that, but it's just part of culture. You see it everywhere and it becomes a habit. And I realized like, wow, that was the first thing I quit more or less on my own. Like it's not a healthy expression of sexuality, right? It's a degradation of it. It's a dismemberment of healthy sexuality. So yeah, the Golden One, he actually helped me. Some of his videos just started thinking about my own drinking habits. And I became a non-drinker largely off of that. Certainly Zach, Family Alpha here, Fraternity of Excellence, Craig also used to be in the Fraternity of Excellence. Tanner Guzzi, Pat Steadman, you, so many men, right? At these men's conferences, right? They're just Stefan Arneo, rest in peace. You know, he has just phenomenal speech. Just some that really leave you inspired, but also just there's so much good going on. I mean, certainly, you know, I got to mention my own father. Right? He's not perfect, but he did a lot for me. I've got, you know, an uncle who's great and in a lot of his own ways, you know, so you look to the men in your life for inspiration. And I think this is one thing, Jesse Lee Peterson really hit me with this at one of the conferences too, Mr. Bruno, like you got to forgive your father. You got to forgive your mother. And I think even if we had perfect fathers, there'd be something lacking about our fathers. There's something that one man can't possibly be everything masculine for us. In fact, that would not be ideal. We're supposed to be raised by a tribe of men. So we have to forgive our fathers for their shortcomings. And the best way to start is to be grateful for what they did give you. So things like that, right? So definitely, yeah, the whole list of guys. I'm sure I'm leaving off a whole bunch of guys, but those are some of the bigger ones. And there's a whole bunch of men who are more or less anonymous, you know, inside of the walls of Fraternity of Excellence. There's men in my own group, personal friends, you know, and men of integrity. I had some great leaders in the military. I think the military has gotten pretty degenerated in its own ways, right? Its standards have slipped tremendously, but there's still, I mean, I had Major McNeil at West Point. He was just he was a special forces major who he used to swim like miles per day. And he was a very masculine, just matter of fact guy. He helped me with nutrition and just, you know, kind of just getting things on straight as a young man. So certainly more and more mentors I could go on the list of. But the great thing is a lot of my mentors, they're all accessible. If you don't like me, go hire one of those guys or go join their groups or get coaching from Mr. Bruno here but you got to make that step. You got to jump out there and you got to do something different, right? I had a guy today in Men of Integrity. He's like, oh man, I didn't do what I wanted to do with my diet this past week, right? And we did Physique Friday and check in. You got your shirt off and it's like, okay, I'm checking in with the guys. And it's like, but what are you going to do different the next week? What system are you putting in place? What's going to be different? That's where we need help a lot of times. But again, it doesn't have to be me, but go join up with other men. You can, but you're 100 times more likely to succeed if you don't do it alone. If you do it with other men. And it's relatively inexpensive. Every dollar is well spent to be in the Fraternity of Excellence, to be in Men of Integrity, to hire a coach even at a few $100 an hour sometimes. If they get you unstuck from a thing you're stuck on, that can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. It's just amazing.
Well, I've said that for years now, that like, you know, you talked about how much you have invested in yourself over the years. And I can imagine somebody saying, my gosh, that's expensive. I'll tell you what's more expensive, not doing it.
Yeah.
What's more expensive is staying stuck. What's more expensive is being the low man on the totem pole. What's more expensive is not getting the raise at work, watching other people just pass you by. That's very expensive. Jim Rohn talks about, investing in yourself. He said, if you don't invest in yourself, wait till life sends you the bill for not investing in yourself.
Well, and that's another concept, right? Is a lot of men struggle with the idea that they deserve money, that they deserve success, and they think money is evil because most of the people who have money right now and are running things don't really have the human soul, in mind or in their focus, right? But there's a great quote in Dave Ramsey's book, what's Total Money Makeover. And I'll paraphrase it here, but he says, look, like if you leave all the money to evil, carnal people, then that's the world we're going to have. Right. So, right. So if you have a kindness, right. If you're a kind soul and you want to see good things in the world, then gobble up those resources and then be the man who gets to help others with them. Be the man who's charitable. Be the man who starts businesses. Be the man who gives back where he can. Be the man who has 5 kids, 10 kids, and raises them well and has the resources. Again, you don't need to live in opulence, right? But that you can afford that 10-passenger van or whatever to put your kids in and take them to church or take them to soccer or pay for their sports. And right, those are. But don't we gotta get out of that. That's all guilt and shame based, right? So we keep going back to that common theme of men got to overcome like these the lesser side of themselves by letting go of these things.
What does 2022 hold for Ken Peterson?
Ooh, well, I just had a son at the end of last year. He was in the hospital for a little bit with some complications, but we're very grateful. We think he's going to make a full. He already has really made a full recovery and he'll just be a normal kid moving forward. So we're so grateful to have him home. There's a lot of joy there. It's for me, it's doubling down on men of integrity. We've already added a bunch of new men this year and late last year. We've got a great challenge coming up in February of 2020, a month-long group challenge. I call it Focus February. It's just daily accountability, daily focus. And then this year we're adding in some deep dive stuff and a group, competitive fitness challenge that's going to compile throughout the month, and we'll see who comes out on top. So having things like that on the calendar, and then there's a lot up in the air in this world, right? But again, we can anchor back to principles. So me, it's just stepping up more as a leader, and seeing if I can expand my reach to more men. That's why I'm on here, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you. Just give me a bigger platform than I have to see if I resonate with some men. Manofintegrity.com. Book a call, and I'll do what I can to help you. That's my commitment. That's my mission, is to help other men, because so many men have helped me, and I feel right when I give back. And men maybe think, hey, you're going to make money on me and all that stuff we were talking about, but like, I make way more money in my day job, and this is really about helping other men. Maybe I want to do this full time by the end of the year. I don't know, but I'm gonna do a lot more of it. That's for sure. So
yeah, well, we really only value what we pay for. If we don't have skin in the game, it's like the skateboard. You end up if a kid buys his own skateboard, he doesn't leave it out in the rain. Yeah. So you end up valuing that which you pay for. That's how I look at it. So my next question is, and you started on this, how can people find you if men want to find out more? If there is a mother or a father out here who has a son, and they're looking for direction for their son, where to direct them to, how can people find you?
Yeah, to get into Men of Integrity, it's actually manofintegrity.com. And you can, I've got my calendar up there. You can book a screening call with me. We're looking for men. Again, you can be a broken man, but you have to have turned that corner where you're ready to get to work, right? Those are the men that we want. We're not going to have dead weight just sitting around. We need men who are actually going to show up and work. I mean, if you support what I'm doing and you can't fit that criteria, if you just want to send me money, that's fine, or send somebody else money just to continue this mission, no matter who's doing it, it's not about me, right? Then that's fine. But if you're ready to take action and give back to other men and get and receive in turn and be part of something, then that's what we want. If you're there to get inspired and help inspire other men and hold each other accountable, then manofintegrity.com, book a call. You know, I love Twitter for how well it functions, I guess, but that's all the censorship and all that, and you know, whatever.
Right.
I prefer you gab.com /Ken Peterson _, and that's where you'll find me. I prefer Gab. And then I'm on Twitter at Ken of Integrity, and we'll see how long I last on there. But really, I prefer just message me through Gab. It's open free speech, and I hope to see that grow. And I'd throw my number out here, but that's probably not wise. So.
You did send me some of the places where you can be reached. I will post that information below this video after this call. This broadcast here. So if people want to find you, I'll have your links down below as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any last words? I'm going to give you the last word.
Ooh, the last word is I'll just keep it simple. 2 words. Thank you. Really. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Go out there and get it done, man. Right? We got to build it. Oh, I will say this. Thank you. Now
go ahead.
I have a saying, right? Because a lot, I struggle with this. I focus too much on politics for too long. So I really like this saying. We use it a lot in Men of Integrity. I say politics is downstream from culture, and culture is downstream from you. So that's your call to get to work. If you don't like what you see around you, let's tune out from the politics, you know, even pull back from some of the culture and focus on yourself. And then you can create culture. And that's what we need more of. The world, conserving things isn't going to work. We have to conserve what's left. There's not much left. We have to actively be creating new culture. And that's books and music and poetry and paintings, right? And institutions. We have to build things, but we have to build the men in them first. We need to build leaders. And so again, politics is downstream from culture, and culture is downstream from you. And so, you know, it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable, man. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. It's going to be like, oh man, like somebody looked at me wrong. And dude, you got to get over it. You got to get over it. Right. And you got to push through that feeling of this is uncomfortable. It's hot. It's sweaty. It's whatever. It's hard. You don't need to hit your head against the wall, but sometimes you got to charge, and you just got to go through things, and you got to deal with them. And it gets better on the other side. That's my ultimate message is don't be stuck like I was stuck. You don't have to be. It's so much better on the other side when you start to face reality of your existence, and that there is hope. There are so many people who want to help you. You just got to go find them, and you got to be humble in the best sense of the word, which is being open to who you really are and other people's assessment, and people who want to help you, let them help you. And give back where you can. That's where life is. It's in giving back to other people and building things. So thank you. That was a long last word after 2 words.
That's great. Well, for many years in the future now, people are going to look back at this broadcast, and your words will have sparked somebody who's going to give you credit in a couple years, 5 years. They're going to say, I remember you had this Ken guy on your channel, and something that he said sparked a change in me. And I've been saying this about men who work with men. You're going to say something that's going to spark, that's going to stimulate something inside a man that's going to make him unrecognizable this time next year, unrecognizable this time 2 years from now. And I think that you planted some seeds tonight with my audience, and It's resonant. It's literally going to be resonating with some men. There are some men who are watching this tonight who are going to toss and turn all night thinking about something that you said. I guarantee it.
I hope that's the case, and I hope some reach out to me or you or Zach or Tanner or anybody who's got their got their life together enough to be able to, as Zach says all the time, throw a rope, right? Throw a rope to another man. If they grab on, help pull them up, help bring them up to the next level, and then because really this is all about, like, the way this works. It seems like society is like, oh man, it's falling apart, and everyone's losing faith and all that. One man can really change a lot. And that's the message of hope, is that one man can do a tremendous amount. One man can anchor a civilization, dang near. Certainly a large family, right? And depending on the greatness of the man and his perseverance and his spirit and what he's willing to put in, you can anchor a whole community. And that's really what we're looking for, is what society needs, is men who just say, you know what, I'm watching this, and not on my watch. Not on my watch is it going to degenerate and deteriorate. And in fact, we're going to go in the other direction, and we're going to build some things. I'm going to unite people in the real sense of the word, right? And that means, ironically, that means some things are exclusive. You need exclusive spaces for men, exclusive spaces for women, and different groups of men and different groups of women. And people need to be able to, by their own interests and demographics and their own free will, choose to do things and not be scared to go out there, be politically incorrect, just say what you feel, right? And not out of control, but like when you see something that's not right, or this isn't the flavor of country you want or city you want, that you make a comment, you say something, and it doesn't even have to be with the intent to change it, just that you notice that it's not true, right? And you don't acquiesce to lies. Just say something. Everyone wants to say something, and then say something, but then go do something, right? And fix yourself. And that's right. As we build integrity, our words have more power. Our words have more power, and that's what my experience has been, and that's what I want to help other men. I want men to my left and my right, and we're joining ranks, and we're like, you know what? We're going to do good things for other people, and we're not going to tolerate lies and malfeasance and a lot of stuff that we see in public life right now. And it's just, go look up the Fat Leonard story with the U.S. Navy. I believe that's true. It's just the amount of corruption, in West Point and like all these things has all kinds of lowered standards and it's just we need each other, and again, it's all about you. If it's you can do it, it's not all about you ultimately, right? But it's about you now. It's about you doing something now and taking on as much responsibility as you can. And that's a little bit at a time.
Well, it's like what Coach EO Everett Overton says. It begins and ends with the man. Simple as that.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, you ended it. I think that's great, Mr. Bruno.
That's great. Well, Ken Peterson, West Point grad, military guy for 8 years, founder of manofintegrity.com. I thank you for your time tonight, and promise me that you'll come back again sometime this year. I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to do it. Thank you, Mr. Bruno. I know you've helped me tremendously and a lot of men, and let's just continue that chain. That is the unbroken chain of life if we choose to maintain it. One man helps another man. That's it. And to keep it going.
I love it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.